Welcome, everyone. I'm Maury Weinstein, president and co-founder of System Source. And today, important topic, turning Microsoft 365 Copilot into real workflows. Our presenters today are Michelle Robinson, who will be handling Q&A, and Jon O'Keefe, our esteemed presenter and instructor in the Learning Center. The agenda is in front of you. And here's the agenda right here. I'll be starting off myself with Copilot paid licensing intricacies. And maybe we'll learn something there in the first couple slides and then get right into the meat of Jon's presentation. We hope you're enjoying your pizza. If your pizza hasn't been delivered, pizza delivery is a bit of a art rather than a science. Don't hesitate to reach Julie Dellinger at jdellinger@syssource.com. Thanks, Julie, for putting together today's event. During the webinar, we'll be in presentation mode until the end. We'll use chat to tell us what you hope to learn today. If you've commented on that and put your thoughts in when you registered, we have that information. Don't hesitate to view the webinar in full screen mode and to submit written questions in the question box. There'll be an evaluation just after the webinar finish. We hope you'll take advantage of that and let us know what you think. I thought I'd go to commercial just for 15 seconds, just to let you know what System Source is all about, and then we'll get right into the presentation. People come to us to System Source generally to mature their IT or audiovisual operations. We use the resources of our Learning Center to help do that, hopefully for higher end user productivity and lower help desk costs. There's a lot of work going on in the Learning Center relative to AI. We did train 1,082 folks in 2025 and continue to accelerate on that pace. We have people working in presentation systems who build audiovisual rooms, auditoriums, Teams rooms, huddle rooms. All of that goes on in that auspices of the presentation systems team. Consulting is where we keep our heavy hitters. We do all of our cloud migrations and all of our security analysis in the consulting area. Cloud services is code word for our data center. We've been running a data center in Hunt Valley since 1995. Today, much of our current work is being done at Azure and AWS. Service and support can be done two different directions. One is reactively, when you call us when it all falls apart, and the other is proactively. That's our managed services group. Much of our support today is done proactively in our managed services operations. If we maintain efficiently enough, there may be enough money left over in the budget to refresh your environment once in a while. We do have a configuration center and warehouse here attached to our Hunt Valley headquarters. And that's System Source today. On behalf of the 65 of us at System Source, we say welcome. And don't hesitate to visit the System Source Computer Museum. There is about 1,000 pieces on the floor, including the original Apple I. Our upcoming webinar series, you can always see this on your email screen or on the front of our webpage. There'll be more explanation of Microsoft licensing and how to delay Microsoft's July price increase. I'll be handling that myself. And then stopping AI supercharged email attacks, VMware alternatives is a popular topic. And I'll be handling the managed services 10 specific results you should expect. So our webinar series is ongoing. I think we've done about 1,300 webinars since the early 80s when we got into the educating customer area. Let's jump right into Copilot licensing. It turns out that there are 8 different prices that Copilot is being sold at. Microsoft used to keep the promotions impressively simple, but it's gotten a little more complicated. And I thought I'd share it with you, probably because Copilot licensing is early on in your AI lifecycle. So let's take a look together. In the world of Microsoft, there are 2 different licensing types pretty much. One is the business series for under 300 employees, and the other is the enterprise series. That's generally how Microsoft cleaves their licensing. For the folks that enjoy the business series, which is generally under 300 people in your tenant, there are ways to buy Copilot at $18, or you can bundle it with perhaps your existing licensing, ranging in price, but this existing licensing is $10 differential for Copilot. So if you have business premium license already, you probably paid around $22 for it, and the pricing is $32. That gives you a differential of $10 for Copilot Business. I should note that the functionality among the licensing, all the licensing you see here in front of you, is the same. While the names are slightly different, Microsoft 365 Copilot is on the right-hand side, has the same functionality as Copilot Business, but Copilot Business means you can't have more than 300 of them. That's the dividing line at Microsoft. So hopefully I've been helpful so far. $18 if you're buying it outright, roughly $10 if you're adding it to the very popular business premium licensing. Most of our customers have business premium licensing that are below 300 people in the tenant. So that's the business series. Now, if you're in the enterprise environment, generally above 300 users, these are the purchase price right in front of you, $25.50 and $24, depending on the minimum number of seats that you order. So that's a number of ways, one, two, three, four, five, six-ish ways of buying Copilot right in front of you. The Purview suite has additional Copilot governance and security features. So that might be worth considering, especially since it's half off at $5. And we can talk more about that anytime. If you put your notes into the evaluation, we'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll be dropping off today's presentation early, but I'm wide open to assisting with any specific questions. So there's a couple more ways, and here they are. Right here in front of you, for those that have committed your organization. Now, these, of course, would be for enterprise organizations, 300 plus or 1,000 plus people. For those that you have that you've committed your organization to Copilot AI, Microsoft has significant discounts for you, 30 and 40%. So that completes the 7 or 8 ways that Copilot is purchased. Remember, it has to do with what licensing you already have, because there are bundles available, what licensing you need to go to based on the enterprise size, 300, 300 plus, 300 below, and they range in price from bundle pricing of $10 up to $25.50. So there's just a bunch of different ways, and we'd be happy to help you through this in order to save money. There are plenty of T's and C's to each one of them, but we understand them pretty well. We did renew about $2 million of Microsoft licensing during Q1 of this year. So we've been through the mill. We understand the T's and C's on this. So that ends my piece of the presentation. I'm going to drop off and ask Julie to switch over to Jon, and I appreciate your time very much.
Well, thank you, Maury. Obviously, that is an incredibly helpful breakdown of probably, I would argue, the most difficult part of Copilot, which is understanding the different versions and the different licenses. Because the actual Copilot application, as I'm going to try and show all of you fine folks today, is fairly easy to get going with once you understand a couple of the basic principles that it operates on. Now, I'm going to age myself here, folks. I'm pretty old. Back when I was a kid, there was this board game that used to get advertised on TV a lot. It was called Othello, and it was essentially a version of an ancient Chinese game called Go. They were just popularizing it and bringing it to America. It was in my like Saturday morning cartoons, and it had a slogan, and that slogan has always stuck with me, which is a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. So stepping into a program like Microsoft Copilot, I have never felt that to be more true. Anyone can get started with Microsoft Copilot. So when you're thinking about adding licenses to your organization or bringing in AI and starting to talk about agentic AI, which Copilot does have the ability to do, at least in a limited capacity, the idea of can my employees, can people inside my organization start using this tool and use it really simply? The answer is yes. Now, of course, the more you know, the more you can get out of Copilot. And so today, I'm going to endeavor to show you guys some different things that we can do here in Copilot that are a little bit more advanced, requires some thought, and may also require some training either on the end user side or the people who are deploying this in the IT stack side. But knowing how to do these things can definitely give you a big lift when it comes to using Copilot. So the first thing I want to start with is one of the features that Copilot has over some of the other AI platforms that are out there, and that is their use of kind of semi-agentic AI, and they call them agents inside of Copilot. Agents are two different approaches to basically what we in the business call agentic AI, which are AIs that are designed to do something kind of self-sufficiently and can handle complex tasks while looking at specific subsets of information. Copilot has access to a wide variety of sources where it can get answers from. It has an internal training database that it can use. It has the ability, depending on the licensing you have, it has the ability to go out and access information from the internet. It can also be connected to your SharePoint/OneDrive infrastructure, meaning that when you ask Copilot questions, it can even get answers from pre-existing documents that live in your organization's OneDrive/SharePoint, and it can also access your personal or organizational emails as well as Teams messages. So Copilot has a variety of places that it can get information from. Now, as an IT director, of course, some of these things might feel scary. The idea of it being able to go out and access the internet to find random information for answering questions, that may not be necessarily a choice that you want, which means that in the controls, of course, Microsoft allows you to turn some of these things on and off depending on which license you have. So when you are interested in implementing this and you're talking to System Source about the implementation, one thing that you'll always want to have prepared is what features do I want Copilot to be able to do, because that will help determine which setup you're going to go with. All right, but let's start with agents, because I think agents are probably one of, if not the most helpful way in which Copilot can work inside of a business infrastructure. Now, what an agent is essentially Microsoft has created a variety of micro copilots. They present these copilots as agents, and agents can be turned on and off individually and deployed to specific groups or all of your employees. And each agent is designed to do something specific. Microsoft has blessed us with a few basic agents to start with. For example, when working inside of Excel, they have created an Excel agent. In using the Excel agent, this is a version of Copilot that is strictly designed to work with, create, and understand data through the Microsoft Excel application. Now, regular old Copilot can also do a lot of these things, but what you end up with regular old Copilot, when I say regular old, it's still an absolutely amazing tool here. Regular Copilot has access to such a wide breadth of material that these agents can kind of whittle out some of the noise and nonsense that can occur with generative AI. So while I can do Excel related tasks in my regular Copilot, the Excel agent is designed and focused on answering questions in that application. The same way the PowerPoint agent is designed around PowerPoint, and the same way some of these other agents, like a prompt coach or a forms agent, can help us with. So Microsoft gives us some basic agents that we can deploy to our organization. That means when Larry in accounting has an Excel question, Larry can easily pop open the Excel agent, and we can be sure that the database that's supporting these answers is all very specifically trained on Microsoft Excel. That is a great feature for a generative AI tool. Lots of other generative AI tools don't really have this, nor do they have a way to deploy it organizationally. So Microsoft stepping up and allowing people to have these agents is a great way to make sure your end users are getting a lot of use out of this tool. I know from many, many years in the IT sphere, we can talk about setting up a license for something, but if the end users don't use it, then we're not really getting any value. We're just throwing money away. So the number one goal here is to get our Copilot users using this tool, and agents are a great way to do that. Now, what makes agents even more special is that I or anyone inside your organization that you deem to have this ability, could be just the IT stack, or you could allow end users to do this, can create their own agent. And so I'm going to walk us through the process of creating an agent. The agent that I'm going to create today is going to be a policy agent. And the way it's going to function, to let it go ahead and open the new agent mode here. The way that it's going to function is I have 4 different policy documents here. Now, all of these policy documents, before anybody panics, all of these policy documents are fictitious, right? They're not for a real place or a real university. They are for our fictional Riverview University here. So here is one. We have effective date January 1st, 2026. We have a Riverview University acceptable use in AI tools policy. We also have a data classification and handling standard policy. We have a procurement and vendor engagement policy. And we have a travel and expense policy here. 4 separate, albeit fairly simple policy documents that you might have at any organization: acceptable use, data classification, procurement, and travel and expenses. Now, in the real world, these documents might live on an internal website or something like that, and or they may just fall under the purview of one department. And so when an employee has a question about these documents, they either need to go out and find them and they need to read them, or what's more than likely happening is they're emailing someone, or they're emailing like a help desk type situation and asking their question. So there's a lot of human minutes involved currently inside a lot of organizations for what I'm about to build an agent for. I'm going to build an agent that is going to take these 4 documents. It's going to synthesize them. And inside of this agent, anyone who works at Riverview University, air quotes, will be able to ask questions directly of this agent and get responses just based on the documents that I've uploaded. I will give the agent a custom set of instructions so it knows how to answer. And we can then use the agent as an end user would and ask a couple of questions about things that are in those documents, and only get a response based on these documents. So here, one, we can create an icon, not necessarily super important, but there are lots of icons that we can pick. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here, and I am simply going to pick this project management icon And I would like to make it purple. So now we've got our little icon set up here. Next, I'm going to name the agent, and this is going to be Riverview. Help if I could type. Riverview policy and procedures. Too long, so we'll shorten it up. Riverview policy and procedures. Now I'm going to give a description of my agent, letting everybody know inside the organization what it does. Obviously, the title is pretty helpful, but here, a brief description. This agent is designed to help Riverview employees with questions on policies and procedures. So I've got a brief description here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to give the instructions here. If you have an expiring license here, I can't really specifically speak to what happens to the agents, but if you lose the ability to lose the license, then yes, your agents will no longer be usable. I don't know if they will completely disappear if you re-up your license, but yes, they should no longer be usable once your license expires. That is a specific part of the infrastructure here for Copilot. Okay, so now I'm going to give it instructions here. This is a critical component when building an agent. I have a pre-built list of instructions here. We'll go through them so you can see kind of how they work. Here, I'm telling it you're my knowledge and policy answer agent for a mid-sized public institution. You only use the attached policy documents as the source of truth. For every question, you provide a short answer, 4 to 8 bullets. You cite the specific document name and section number. You provide a clear next step, who, where to go to if action is required. If the document does not contain the answer, say something. This is very important, by the way. We call this negative prompting. If you don't include something like this, then the AI can get confused when it can't find the answer. It needs a clear direction of what to do when it cannot find the answer in the documents you provide. So if the documents do not contain the answer, say not specified in the provider policies, and ask up to 3 clarifying questions. Do not invent policy details. Do not claim legal advice. I'm going to add one more thing in here. If no answer is readily available or clear, please point them to HR at riverview.org. Or we'll do .edu. It really doesn't matter. Okay. So I've set up custom instructions here, which is going to guide how my agent works. Now I have to provide it with the knowledge to train it. Here, I can add files from my SharePoint, from Teams, from Outlook, or from the internet. I can also allow it to go to one or more specific websites, or even allow it to search the internet for answers. This might be helpful, for example, if you are building a tech support bot and you wanted to do some tier 1 Microsoft troubleshooting. You might want to turn on the ability to go ahead and access either all the internet or just specific help sites. Here in this case, I'm going to tell the AI to only use specified sources, and I'm going to grab these 4 documents to use as sources. So now it's uploading these files that will live inside of this agent and will be the only source that this agent can answer from. It's not allowed to search websites. It can't go to anything else. Only specified sources is turned on, which means that it will only answer from these 4 documents. This is a critical step if I do not want it to go out to the internet, or I don't want to get it confused with other internal documents. Because if I turn on search all websites, or I allow it to go to my SharePoint, it can find other documents that it might use to create these answers, which can get confusing. At the bottom, you have the ability to tell this what it can create. Can it create documents, charts, and code? So if I'm questioning this agent here, can it output as Word, Excel, PowerPoint files? Can it analyze data? Can it do math equations? For this, the answer is no. We do not need it to do that. This does a couple of things. One, creating any of these, we're either doing data analysis, code snippets, creating Microsoft Office files. Those are a little bit more computationally expensive. All that means is that Copilot's got to work a little bit harder to do those things than to just produce text answers. So I don't need them. I don't want to overflow my organization's prompting here. So I turn that off. I also don't need this to create images, so I leave that off as well. Here, if you want your end users to have some suggested prompts, you can create a few suggested prompts. So for example, you might want them to, when they come in, ask, what's the receipt requirement for, what's the receipt requirements? So that's the title. The message is, what's the receipt requirement for travel expenses? When do receipts become mandatory? A common question that might get asked a lot by your end users. And so you can pre-populate basic questions, so people don't even need to think. They'll just see that there are questions there. So you can add several suggested prompts if that's something you're interested in. You do not have to have these that will operate without them. So now that I've got suggested prompts, documents, I even have a little logo here. I can go ahead and I can create this agent. It will take a second to create, but once the agent is created, it can then be deployed organizationally. Right now, mine is set to private. That just has to do with the way my organization is structured. I don't really have anyone to deploy these to because I'm in like a teaching bubble here. But here I could share and then send this agent to a group or to an individual, or have it deployed out across the entire organization. So once I'm in the agent, it just looks very much like regular old Copilot. The difference is this agent will only answer questions based on those sources that I showed you. And you can see here, you can create a variety of different agents. This is a tier 1 tech support. And here's my policies and procedures agent. So I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple of questions. The first question I'm going to ask comes from one of our employees. And they have questions about student names and student ID numbers. So can I paste student PII, names and student ID numbers, into Copilot to summarize advising notes? So now this policy and procedure agent is only going to look inside those 4 documents that we created and will be available to whoever we share this with so they can ask questions of that document. This will save us a lot of time in the long run, specifically if the way we've previously been handling that is by either just putting these things on a drive somewhere and hoping people will look at them themselves, or we've been kind of assigning it to a human. We email the HR department, they look through the documents, that's a lot of man hours lost. So here, based on Riverview University policy, you should not pay student PII. What can I do instead? What's my key takeaway? So there's my answer. Now I'm going to answer it a question that it doesn't know the answer to. Here is my second question. What's the per diem meal limit for New York City travel? Now, this information is not in those documents. So here, we shouldn't see the AI make something up. The AI should tell us that it can't find that answer. It's not specified in the policies. And it should give us some next steps on how to get the answer information we're looking at. So here, I reviewed the available sections of the Riverview policy, even as a link to the document, which in order to be uploaded into this is now in the agent here. This policy does not specify a per diem meal limit for New York City travel, nor does it list city-specific or federal per diem rates for meals. The document focuses on travel general prior requirements. Because this policy does not document New York City, you may want to confirm the current allowance or applicable guidance with finance or HR. If you need further clarification, please email. And here is my fake email address that my Copilot associates with my agents. So it wants to email HR at Willow Tree Tech, which is a fake company I use in my classes. So Copilot kind of has an idea of like where these things should be directed to. It also gives me 3 different suggestions down here that are associated with the question I asked. So agents can be set up to answer questions like, what do we do when we're buying a lot of software? Or what do I do when I've got PII or PHI? And it will only do it based on the documents that you upload to train the agent itself. Once again, this can be pushed out to someone in the organization who needs access to it, groups of individuals, or to your entire organization to answer very specific questions. The goal of agents is to essentially create what I would consider in the IT realm a tier 1 answering system for tech support, policies and procedures, travel guidance, PHI, PII, guidelines, project management guidelines, all of that fun stuff. So these are agents here. I asked another question. We're buying 12,000 software subscription. What procurement steps do we need to follow? For 12,000 software subscription, the required is this. Here's our pricing thresholds. Here's our summary. Email we need to connect to, follow-up questions. That's agents. Agents are new-ish. They're pretty hot. You can make a different variety of them. When you make them, you can completely build them from scratch, or they have templates that you can choose from to help you build. and they can be built by designated individuals inside your organization. Some organizations have taken the idea of letting any end user build an agent. Others are very specific about who's able to do this. But agents are a great way of getting yourself set up to take some of those basic man hours off simple tasks. Between a tier 1 tech support and a policy and procedures agent, most of my end users should be using these as opposed to emailing HR or the help desk when problems are arising, thereby giving everyone more time back in their lives. There's nothing worse than emailing help desk and having to wait for a response as an end user. And there's nothing worse as a help desk person when you have mission critical things that you're working on and you're flooded with simple requests that an AI might be able to answer. So it's a win-win for everyone when it comes to agents. Now, let's take a step off of agents and go back to some of the general functionality inside of Copilot. I think agents are really awesome, but regular old Copilot can do some really cool things as well. One of the nice things about Copilot for 365 is it is embedded in my Microsoft infrastructure here. And why is that cool? Because it allows me to, from my basic web interface, interrogate what's going on inside of the different Microsoft applications that I'm using. I can ask it about files that have been added to my OneDrive recently. Has any file been shared with me in the past 30 days in my OneDrive? Provided I am on the work version of Copilot, I am allowed to ask questions. And when I ask questions, it can check my OneDrive or my email, and nothing has been shared with me in the last 30 days. It's showing me files that have been added by me that I've shared with other people. This is an Excel file that I use in classes to demonstrate what Copilot can do or other generative AI systems. And it's also something I use in one of my Excel classes. So that's been added that I shared the files with others to demonstrate the sharing feature. It can even give me instructions on how to go in and check for myself. So I can ask questions about my infrastructure. Another question I might have about my infrastructure is with my emails. Do I have any unread emails from D in my inbox? So my Copilot can go out and look at my Outlook, look for whatever I'm asking it to look for. In this case, do I have any unread emails from D? It can go ahead. I had an issue today with one of our internal systems. It got fixed. Both are part of the same support thread and don't likely require a long response. I made sure they were unread just for this class, so you can see I can ask for an unread email here. One of the coolest things that Copilot has around these types of features is once I've asked it to do something, I can actually schedule it to occur again and again and again. So maybe D and I have long communications going back and forth, and every day at the end of my workday, I just want Copilot to let me know if D has emailed me. So I can come in, schedule this prompt, pick when it's going to run. We'll have it run every day, Monday through Friday. We'll have it run at 4:30 p.m. and it can run until 5:19. Now at 4:30, it's going to go out and it's going to look for any unread emails from D in my inbox. Now, once you get good with this, we can make this prompt even more complex, and we could say, summarize the emails, prepare responses, draft this, do that, and we can create a whole string of instructions that Copilot can automatically handle for us to help us get an email box under control. Now, I don't have honestly, I don't have a very particularly busy inbox. As an educator, I am spared kind of the email, the challenges that a lot of people face where they're getting hundreds of emails a day. I only get a couple. But I can do a lot with Copilot when it comes to having, for example, a busy inbox. What I'm going to do now is I don't have, like I said, I don't have a particularly busy inbox myself, but I do have an approximation of a busy inbox. So what I've done to approximate this is I've put 35 emails into a Word document here. We have to suspend a little bit of disbelief just because I can't get 35 emails from here into my Outlook client and have it make sense and all of that. But this is approximating an Outlook client. I have 35 emails in here from random names and individuals, some of which are internal, some of which have to do with a specific meeting that's coming up, some of which have nothing to do with the specific meeting coming up, and some of which are junk mail. So I am going to ask my Copilot here to look in this specific Word document, and we're going to pretend that that Word document is my inbox. This would work exactly the same way, whether it's coming from a Word file or from my actual Outlook inbox. So there's 35 emails here. I'm going to ask it to summarize. I'm going to say, based on this document, and all I would do in the real world is say, based on my Outlook. So based on this document, can you break down the emails into the following categories? 1, anything that is junk mail or doesn't have to do with work-related topics. 2, anything that is about the upcoming presentation that I have to give. And 3, anything else that needs a response from me. So I'm going to ask it to essentially triage my busy email box here. Now we're starting in this process with a fairly simple prompt. I'm just saying I want this broken into 3 categories here. After this, I'm going to go through a process called iteration. Iteration is once I've reviewed Copilot's response to me, I am likely going to have follow-up needs or questions, or I may notice something that doesn't make sense to me, and I'm going to continue to work with Copilot in a back and forth manner. This we call iteration, and it is one of 2 basic prompting techniques. So here it's reviewed junk mail or non-work related emails. Here's some promotional ones here. Emails about upcoming presentation, training with North Star. Emails that need a response. And so it has broken my emails down into 3 separate categories: junk mails, emails about an upcoming presentation, emails that need a direct response from me. Now I'm going to say, condense all of the information about the upcoming presentation into bullet points and prepare an agenda for me that I should be getting ready with. A lot of my emails are about an upcoming presentation. I'm going to have Copilot break down those emails into bullet points and then create an agenda for that presentation coming up. The amount of time I'm saving myself from having to read through 35 emails, as opposed to just asking a couple of pertinent questions and getting everything summarized for me, that is one of the main strengths of what Copilot can do. So here's a condensed presentation ready breakdown of everything related, followed by a practical agenda I can prep against. Here's the info. In bullet points, it even has references to where you would find the emails in your email box. So you could click on each of these. For me, it's just one document, but each of these in the real world would be an actual email you could click and go directly towards it. And here is my agenda for that meeting. So Copilot can take a busy inbox, and with a couple of quick questions, I can break my 35 emails into 3 categories. I can then isolate one category, have it create a bullet pointed summarization, as well as a meeting agenda. To no one's surprise, I could ask questions about the other emails that require a response, and I could have Copilot draft those responses for me. Now, I've got a little bit of time left, and I want to show you one more really cool thing we can do with Copilot in terms of helping us out with workflow that we'll likely run into inside any organization here. So first, I built an agent that allows anyone inside our organization to ask questions on policy and procedures, which takes the onus off of the HR or the IT team from having to answer those questions. That agent can be deployed across the organization or to just specific users. And we can tailor agents to any type of information we want. They could do tech support, they could do project management support, they could help us build FAQs. All of that can be created with an agent. Second, I took a busy inbox, broke it down, figured out what was not necessary, had it do a summarization of a bunch of emails for me, and build a meeting agenda. Now, before I give a presentation, one thing I will often do is I will use a technique called AI-assisted questioning. AI-assisted questioning is a scenario in which you work back and forth with the AI. One second. Just want to make sure that I'm sharing audio. I believe I am. I'll double share just in case. Okay, yep. I just wanted to make sure I was doing audio. I'm going to show you AI-assisted questioning. What I have here is a PowerPoint presentation. It's just a series of slides about learning about Copilot, generative AI. You know, this is an example class here. And so I am going to upload this presentation into Copilot. I'm going to allow Copilot to take a look at that. And I am then going to allow Copilot to ask me questions about this presentation as though Copilot is my audience. I'm going to assign it a couple of brief roles. I'm going to allow it to ask me questions of the content that is in this slides. So not only will I have a presentation that I am comfortable delivering here, but I get to practice the Q&A portion, which for many people is very scary. So, all right, Copilot, here's what I'd like to do.
Sure, I'm all ears. Let me know what you have in mind, and we'll go from there.
I am going to present the PDF that I uploaded here. At the end of my presentation, which we will assume that I have given, I would like you to act as a C-suite, a CEO, a CTO, and a CIO, along with any other role that might make sense, like a sales director or marketing director or training director. The goal here is that I've given this presentation to discuss some training on Microsoft Copilot that I would like to deliver to your organization. I want you to be skeptical, excited, set up a variety of different personality types, and ask me challenging questions that a C-suite might ask before adopting a training like this. When I'm done answering, please give me feedback on my answers for tone, friendliness. Did I get the information right? Was I persuasive enough? And be harsh if you think I've missed something.
Got it. That sounds like a fantastic challenge. I'll channel a whole C suite panel ready to ask tough questions and push your ideas. And after you respond, I'll give you detailed feedback. No sugarcoating. Let's dive into it whenever you're ready with your first answer.
Let's go.
All right, I'm stepping into the role of a CEO now. Here's my question. What measurable impact will this Microsoft Copilot training have on productivity in the first 90 days?
That's a great question. And I want to talk about measuring productivity a little bit before I give you a specific answer, because there's a variety of ways in which we can answer this question. The first is that with proper training, this tool is going to help your employees be about 50% more efficient when it comes to completing tasks that previously would have taken them over 10 minutes. We've noted that with Copilot, anytime someone's using this to create a complex task and they have training, they can generally take any task, regardless of length, and get it down to something that takes under 10 minutes to do. That isn't always a hard and fast rule, but that's what we've seen through deployment at other organizations. The immeasurable part, the part that's hard to track, is how were employees doing the things that they will do in Copilot before Copilot? And I'll give you what we know happens inside organizations when there are technically difficult things and employees don't have Copilot to help them do it. One, they'll go into a Google/YouTube rabbit hole. And this tends to take, because of the difficulty in finding the right information, 2 to 3 times longer than if you were to use Copilot to accomplish the same thing, because Copilot is an excellent aggregator of information. Two, what is also happening, and you might not be seeing it, is when Larry in accounting has a question about Excel, Larry will Google it, Larry will YouTube it, and if Larry still doesn't understand, Larry will get up and ask Michelle. And then Michelle will take time out of her day to explain to Larry what is happening. This takes time away from two people. So not only do you have to worry about individual employees with challenging questions going through the, quite frankly, old way of doing things through Google and YouTube, but you also are secretly losing the time of your best employees because they're helping your employees who don't have this skill set.
Thanks for your answer. You gave a lot of context, which is great. But as the CEO, I feel like I didn't get a crisp, quantifiable projection for the first 90 days. You mentioned efficiency boosts and task completion times, which was useful, but I didn't quite hear a solid prediction of overall productivity gains. Also, the tone was friendly and informative, but it felt a bit long-winded. A C-suite often wants a sharper, more concise response. Next time, try giving a top-line metric up front, then follow with the explanation. That'll make your pitch more persuasive and impactful.
As you can see, the AI is right, of course. That was way too long-winded, and I didn't have a quantifiable metric because I wasn't even prepared for that question. It thought of a question that I wouldn't have thought of. And so in this process, I can set the AI up, and this is called AI-assisted questioning, to act as one or more different roles and go back and forth with me on things like Q&As, practicing giving a presentation and getting feedback on each slide. If you have to give a performance review to an employee and maybe you've never done one, you can set the AI up for that. And it can function either based on its own training data, or you can give it files like I gave it the Copilot presentation to base that off of. That is AI-assisted questioning. So in this context, I can use Copilot to create an agent that only answers certain questions and deploy that across my organization. I can use Copilot to scan my email box, break down certain emails into certain groups, prepare responses, prepare an agenda, and I can even set that to occur daily or weekly or monthly. So the AI is always working to aggregate my emails and keep my email box clean. And then when I have to go give a presentation, before I step into that room, I can set the AI up as a C-suite or any sort of arrangement that I would like, have it challenge me so I can practice answering questions for a Q&A section, or giving a presentation, or giving a performance review, or anything where you might have to go back and forth with someone. These are three of literally thousands of ways that you can use this tool inside of your own infrastructure to help increase productivity, save people time in certain departments, save yourself time, and prepare yourself for what otherwise could be a difficult or uncomfortable situation. Michelle, let me turn it back to you for Q&A and final wrap up here.
Thanks so much, Jon. I personally use Copilot, I use ChatGPT, and I use Claude, all three licensed products. And you just can't beat having Copilot right there in your work with you. So that makes it really interesting from an office worker perspective. I want to share with you, we have some special courses that we have released. I think it's 10 new Copilot chat courses. Those are 1 hour webinar style, very specific either to using Excel or Teams or just higher quality prompts. Those classes that are available for you there. They are now live in open enrollment. The first classes kicked off May 1st, actually, and they seem to be very popular. We also do have the full one-day class, the Copilot 365 across applications class. That is a hands-on class where you dig into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Teams and actually get to use Copilot in the specific applications. And then because agents have really grown in popularity, we've added some Copilot agent classes down below. You'll see there, and they're very popular, again, to develop your own agent. And I know there's a lot of questions around agents and how agents are different in Copilot versus in the other AI tools. So I think that those could be very enlightening for you. And these are just a subset of all of the classes that are available. There are so many more classes available. There's Purview classes for those of you who really want to do that add-on for extra security. There's ways to look at this from a government perspective if you're on GCC versus Copilot Business or Copilot Enterprise. So there's a lot of nuances, let's say, that come into scheduling these classes. We do have the full open enrollment schedule, and those are the prices for those open enrollment classes. But we also offer private classes, so we can customize it just to your use case if you wanted to do that for your team and get your team up and running rather quickly. I think we do have one question maybe in the chat. Maybe it was answered.
Yeah, yeah. When the trial expires, the agents will go away. The only thing I'm not sure of is if you then subscribe after using the trial, if the agents will remain. They probably will, knowing how Microsoft works.
Yeah, they do. They do. And Frontier is an interesting one because it's not even licensed production yet. But certainly with any of those trials, you'll still have it. It just you won't be able to edit or have the functionality. But once you relicense, then you'll have that there for you. Let's see. What else? I do want to let you know again, we have the webinar evaluation at the end, and we would ask that you fill that out. Let us know the next topics you want to see around AI or any other topics, and we'll be happy to look at adding those educational webinars for you. And also, in order to win the $25 Amazon gift cards, you've got to fill out your evaluation. So if you'll do that, we'd appreciate it. Otherwise, we will let you go get back to your day. I hope you found it worth your while.
Thanks, everybody.